There we go. All right. Well, good evening, everyone. Welcome to tonight's meeting of the Oakland Mills Community Association Village Board. To get us started, we have a couple of administrative items. The first of which is to approve the minutes from our meeting way back on January 16th. So does anyone with a memory of that meeting want to motion to approve those minutes? All right, Bill, I'll take a second from Warren. Any discussion of those minutes? All right, all in favor? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 0, 0. Okay, next is approval of the agenda for tonight's meeting. Is there a motion to approve? I got Bill. I'll take a second from Warren as I see the hands go up. Any discussion of tonight's agenda? Okay, all in favor?
One thing, since Frank from Shadow Oaks is not here, can we have Nick and the people from Howard County Rexon Park go first? I don't know if that has to be an alteration on the agenda, but
I don't think it
Jonathan?
would be, because if we hit that item and the
Jonathan? Oh.
yes. I don't think Judy
Hi.
can hear us.
Jonathan, sorry to bother you. I wanted to speak at Resident Speak Out, but I can't figure out what's wrong. I cannot hear you. I can't seem to get that to work. I don't know why. So I don't know when you're going to do that. I have no idea why. It's the first time this has happened.
Let's see, do I have a paper here?
And it's got stuff on the bottom here that I don't normally have. Whiteboard, apps, all companions, summary, stuff that I don't normally have on my thing. Yeah, I know you can hear me, but I can't get this to hear you. Yeah, Karen.
Make sure you're not muted. Make sure that the volume control on your laptop isn't muted.
No, I'm not muted, and wait a minute. Oh, it was muted, but that's weird.
can you hear us
Switch
now?
to same as MacBook. Test speak.
Can you hear us now, Jenny?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
There you go.
I'm the
Well,
help desk.
This
I'm the
was
help
my
desk. I knew what the problem was.
I don't know what happened or what I pressed or something, but I got all weird things down here that I never had before, like whiteboards and notes.
Those are just the normal Zoom things that you get, but I knew that. I was like, her laptop is muted. I just know it.
Normally, it says an arrow through it, and I take the arrow off, and I'm fine. You know, it's like what? Oh, well, any rate.
Brigida, I swear, in 2 weeks, unless the other barn is actively on fire, we are going back into the building.
Well,
I
good
don't care
news.
if there's no heat, no plumbing, as long as it's not burning and filled with smoke, we're using it.
I was there tonight. Nobody's there. I should have known better, Brigida, after the meeting the other day. I went from CA headquarters past my house, ringing the bell, and it was dark. I said, "Oh my God, they're not here." I rushed home, got this on, and said, "Oh, fuck." I was at your tot lot meeting, guys.
I know. I saw Nick here, or Nick rather, and I thought, oh, good, Nick's going to give us an update on the tot lots.
It was a good meeting, I think. I got, and you should have gotten the report. So anyway, I think they tried to get a meeting with you guys in March, or no, February 27th.
Yes.
Yeah.
Brigida, to your question, I mean, if we get to that point in the agenda, which is right after resident remarks, and the person with the business isn't here, yeah, we're just going to move on. But I mean, this is the how many have attempted this? I think we also have to
Yes.
talk about what they keep not showing up, because
Yes.
I think this is our fourth try, isn't it?
It's our second try at the meeting. Yes, but we have attempted to schedule with them several times. Yeah.
Okay, I forgot how many meetings, but I know we've had several false starts with scheduling. Okay, so we'll see what happens when we get there, because we obviously have at least one person for resident speak out.
Okay,
And that's where we are in the agenda. So, hey, if you're here for resident speak out, you get 3 minutes. I'll put a timer up and just raise your hand and I'll,
did we actually vote on the agenda?
yeah, it was
I didn't
500.
hear it. Okay.
Okay, well, before my 3 minutes start, you guys know that there's some speed counters or something, or counters on near the circle, going into the circle, coming out of the circle on both sides.
yes.
Been there for 2 days now. It's exciting. So you're getting something done, I think, whatever it is. Okay, residents speak out. I don't have any prepared testimony because I ran from the other meeting to this, but I'd like to speak on the easement policy, and real quick. Our easement policy that CA has is pathetic. You could drive a Mack truck through it, and I think that's been happening. We've got some serious problems with it. If you believe that open space is something that the residents want, and we know every survey shows that they feel that's the most important thing. And two, if the board feels strongly about protecting CA open space, I hope they take a position on this. And three, CA has it in their strategic plan that they're supposed to be good stewards. That has not been happening. And I don't mean this in a negative way. I'm trying to give you some facts. First, you had a couple of issues with downtown Columbia with the former Clyde's, the collectible, where the CA board, you would think, would have had a hearing on whether or not some profit organization should be getting use of your open space. Didn't happen. I kept asking for it for 6 months, and what happened was we were told, oh, sorry about that, but the contract was signed by staff 2 months before that, in December, I think it was 22, and I'm still asking for public hearings in March 23. So it was a negotiated deal. You had nothing to do with it. The public openness and transparency didn't exist. Then we had a fight to get it so that you could see what was in it. The example before that, see, I assume with easements, when you read it, they all come to the board, and technically they do, but the loophole that you could drive the Mack truck through is that was a contract. Okay, the one before that was a settlement and a lease with the Symphony Woods area. Again, the public had no say. They didn't know what was going on, and we had to actually go, people had to go to the Attorney General and get a ruling that we are an HOA and that we had a right, people had a right to see that contract, again, to a profit organization. I'm not saying anything might not have been approved. I'm saying you have a right to protect, to know what's going on your open space. And this thing of, well, we don't even have to pay attention to the easement policy. It's a contract, it's a settlement. And in the settlement, by the way, where this profit organization had actually built on CA land was excused. Now, you just can't have that happening, guys. We've got to be more concerned about what's happening on CA open space. And Karen has spent about a year working on this with a lot of people. And I think it's something that you should consider supporting. It may need some amendments, but it's needed. It really is needed. And I guess I'm out of time.
All right. Thank you, Jenny. Anyone else for speak out? Going once, going twice.
You want me to try again? No.
No, that's okay. So I know we have a few others in the meeting. No one has the name Frank, but just making sure that no one here is Frank Standifer from Shadow Oaks, correct? I know Sky isn't, I know Adrian isn't, I know Ashley isn't. All right. Then Nick, if you're ready to go, you're on a little early. Nick, the Parks is the director. And I know he was at the Owen Brown Village Board meeting recently talking about plans for the East Columbia library park fields. These are the fields that kind of sit, behind the library, between the library and the other side of Cradle Rock Lane in the Village Center. And we had also invited, or no, I think you had reached out and asked if we would invite you in to present to us, and we were planning to do that anyway. So we appreciate the outreach, and it's all yours. We have 30 minutes scheduled for this, up to 30 minutes.
Great. Thank you so much, Jonathan. Can everybody see my screen there?
Yes.
You're able to see that? Great. Let me go and put it in present mode.
Can I just say it's nice to see you again, Nick?
Nice to see you, Rebecca. Thank you for giving us some time on your agenda this evening. We wanted to present the revised East Columbia Library Park plan concept to you all because of the proximity to Owen Brown. It's in walking distance from at least some areas in Oakland Mills. And of course, there's a parking lot there too. So we presented the revised concepts to Owen Brown last week, and Brigida got a sneak peek. She attended as well, and then we're here tonight to present it to you and get some feedback on the plan. So with that, I'll give you a little bit of an overview of because this project goes it predates my time with Rec and Parks for sure. So back in 2013, the project was originally funded, and at the time it was the advocates for the type of amenities that would go into the park were really from youth baseball and quick start tennis. So quick start tennis is like smaller, fast forward 10 years, pickleball size courts. So they were the real big advocates at the time. 2014 was the public input meeting. Designs were revised in 2016. The Owen Brown Village Boards had supported that plan. However, in 2016, funding was reallocated to Ellicott City flood mitigations. Fast forward again, I could have put another line in here for COVID, of course, and the impacts. We're finally in fiscal year 2024, and the project is now fully funded. And actually, more importantly, Rec and Parks, Howard County owns the property now. It had been previously owned by Howard Hughes and leased to Rec and Parks for, I think, about 20 years. So December 5th of 2023, we attended the Owen Brown Village Board meeting. We've had received a lot of input on the design. December 20th, we had a Rec and Parks Advisory Board meeting. A lot of members of the public showed up to speak towards the plan, provide feedback. In January, we revised that plan based on a community feedback, and I'm going to take you through a couple of the iterations of the plan, so bear with me. And then just last week, we presented the revised plan to Owen Brown, and again, we're here tonight to present to you. The organizations and individuals that we received public input, this isn't all inclusive, but it included the Owen Brown Village Board, Owen Brown residents just countywide, Rocky Gorge Rugby, Hurricanes Rugby, Terps football, Jaguars football, the Less Plastic Please folks, Sierra Club, and of course our own Recreation and Parks program coordinators. And this is just an overview, an aerial of the site. So this is the library, the new 50+ centers over here in this corner. And there was just 3 not even built fields. They're just kind of level fields that are being used as athletic fields for quite some time. They don't really hold up to the amount of play, amount of activity, all the different uses on the site. But this is what the site looks like pretty much today. So the original concept was 2 12U artificial baseball fields and the 6 quick start tennis courts. and a playground and a pavilion with interconnected pathways, and the baseball field and the tennis courts were to be lit. Again, 10 years later, this is, you know, and the types of program that we're running on the site currently, based on the feedback of the community, you know, we quickly determined that this was not the way to proceed any longer. We incorporated all the feedback, and this is the revised plan, what you see before you. So instead of 3 natural fields, it's 2 natural fields. Again, we didn't feel like the site that artificial fields were needed, and if we were going to do artificial fields, we would certainly light those, and it would become more of a permitted field. But we were looking at this as more of a community park versus like what you see at Bland Air. It's for the community, but of course, with the fields, we host a lot of tournaments there, as you all know. And so this is a much smaller footprint, and we wanted to be sensitive to that. So I'll just walk you through it. So the 2 natural fields, so it can continue to support the programs. We heard from the rugby groups that said a lot of the kids that are in those youth rugby teams and you know, Terps and Jaguar football are from the community. They often walk to practice and then wait at the library to get picked up. And I felt that was really meaningful testimony that they provided, and really helped point our direction on this. 2 basketball courts. We've continued to receive a lot of feedback from the community about needing more basketball courts throughout the county. These would be with the new, we color code them just like tennis courts now. These would be lit with dark sky certified lights. There's been some really great advancement in lighting technology. We are going to be taking the Owen Brown Village Board to Centennial basketball courts that have the dark sky certified lighting has been installed there. And they're really amazing. When you're just outside of the court, it's pitch black. When you're on the court, it feels like it's daylight. You just don't get that, a lot of that light bleed off. And then, of course, we did a previous iteration had pickleball. We couldn't get the pickleball courts. We want those to be at least 500 feet, preferably 600 feet or more from especially homes. And then, of course, we have the Interfaith Center right down here as well, and the library. So we just couldn't situate the pickleball courts far enough away from everything. The noise from a pickleball is far different than a basketball. That pickleball noise just cuts through everything. And the prevailing guidance from landscape architects and park planners has been, you know, minimum 500 feet, 600 feet, or even more if you can. And before I continue, I'd like to say I have Bob Lenz from Rec and Parks. He's our chief of capital improvements, and Paul Walski, who's the park planner for this specific park, on the call as well. So they may chime in along the way, and then are happy to answer some questions after I'm done presenting. One of the advantages to pulling the pickleball out is it's going to give us a much bigger space for the playground. And we've situated the playground, you know, to the south here, getting the basketball courts with the lights away from the homes. And of course, you know, obviously there are some noise with some of these activities, of course. The playground is had been designed, but we're redesigning it. One, you know, obviously I'm still in contact with my former teammates back at Columbia Association. So I checked in with them to see how the Tot Lot pilot, you know, reimagining CA's play areas was going. You know, they provided some feedback from their survey to us. You know, there's a real exchange of information because the community doesn't care who built the playground, but we just want to provide the amenities that the community really want and need. So we're excited to be able to incorporate some information, get a playground design, and then we're absolutely willing to come back to this group, NO and Brown, to present just on the playground design itself. But some things we've heard is climbing structures, of course, any playground that the county installs, or replaces. There's a real emphasis on not just accessibility from an ADA perspective, but also making inclusive play. So we do like flush mounted merry-go-rounds that are designed for wheelchairs and kids in wheelchairs, and also kids not in wheelchairs, so they can actually do the activity together. And there's a couple other options that we've been installing at Centennial. We have an actual wheelchair glider, a wheelchair swing, and of course the sensory play options like you see at Blandair Park and Centennial as well. So and then of course interconnected pathways, any pathways coming from these neighborhoods today, this plan may not meet up exactly, but we will take care to make sure that those all those pathways are connected to. And of course, the restroom sits up in this corner. We'll get a little bit of a facelift, but it's the existing restroom building right in the top right corner. Again, this playground was designed and then revised, but we're taking another look at it because we want to, a lot has changed, and we want to make sure that it's difficult for Columbia Association to install like a wheelchair accessible merry-go-round at a top lot at the end of a cul-de-sac in a wooded lot where the pathway is not ADA accessible. That's just not where you would do it. So anytime the county can come in and do a playground right in the middle, right in the heart of Columbia, that's where we can really focus on inclusive play options. So Bob and his team are going to be really taking a hard look at this. And again, happy to report, present just on the playground, since this group is, actively having those conversations with the Columbia Association on the Oakland Mills top lots. So the construction timeline for this project will go into design and permitting in October. Through October. Construction tentative start date would be January 2025. We hope to have a ribbon cutting grand opening for the playground and basketball courts in September of 2025. The fields will need a little more time to mature, and we see those projecting opening in spring of 2026. This was taken. These are pictures of the field. I think they were taken in like October. So the fields held up. The current fields kind of held up for about half of the season, and then they just get really beat up. These are clearly areas that held water, compacted. We can't even aerify these fields because it feels like it's like you're aerifying pulling cores in a parking lot. There's so many rocks under it. So the existing fields, even though we're replacing them with natural field, they'll be much more improved, and they won't be perfect year round. Again, they're natural fields, but they'll hold up much better than the fields that you see there today. And then that's my information and Bob's and Paul's. Of course, Brigida has all her information as well, and she can pass that along, because I'm going to stop sharing here because I wasn't looking at everybody when I was presenting. So on one screen here. So with that, I'm happy to answer any questions. Ms. Karen?
Yeah, I was gonna wait for Jonathan to call me. I can't figure out where the hand thing is on Zoom, so I'm sorry about that, Jonathan. So first of all, Nick, I really like the plan. I really like the plan a lot. It looks fantastic. I'm curious about the natural fields because I'm wondering, so one of the things I noticed about Blandair is there is a tournament there every single weekend, and lacrosse, those hard packs there in front of the soccer, as a soccer player and a former soccer coach and everything, that hard pack in front of the goal, that's not necessarily from soccer. That might be where those lacrosse nets go, right? And around
Mhm.
that crease where
Yeah.
they just swarm that area. And so I'm wondering, what is the plan? You guys put those you're going to put these fields down. They're going to be gorgeous. And I love that they're natural instead of turf because I think that's much better for preventing injuries, right? I don't think turf is so great. But what is the plan to keep those fields? Like, how much are you expecting there to be a lot of tournaments? And how are you guys going to maintain those fields?
No, there's going to have to be a balance on this site, and we really needed to balance the amount of activities on the site anyway with the library and the 50 plus center. Um, you know, the, the facilities has taken a look at it again. The Department of Facilities with Howard County and has assured that there's enough parking, but there never is. It's like no matter what, like, there never is enough. So we're going to be we've committed to Owen Brown Village Board in that community that we're going to be mindful and not over permit these fields. So really the uses that we see there today are the uses that we want to see continue. We would have been displacing a lot of our own programming, this is the home fields of those rugby programs. And there's really nowhere else for them to go. And then this definitely comes with a more intensive field management program. So that's something that is my background, and my original background, and something that I'm taking a real hard look at county-wide. And so we're going to be taking a lot of care into the soil that we use there, the drainage, the slopes, really making sure. And then, one thing that gets overlooked is working with the lacrosse coaches and the soccer coaches, because just because you play on a game, you play a game north to south, you can set up a field for practice anyway. And that way you can go sideways and you can, that way it distributes the wear. So, we're having some internal conversations, and I see that part of Rec and Parks, athletic field maintenance certainly growing. I've said in public meetings that I don't see, we'll always need artificial fields to support the amount of the demand, youth sports and adult sports, and natural fields just can't support play from, from sun up till 11 o'clock at night. It's just, there's no grass that can do that. If there was, I would do it. I would know about it. I've, like I said, it's my background. But I also think there always needs to be these type of natural fields in the community too. And I don't think it's certainly not our intent to replace every natural field in the county with artificial fields. But that means we've got to adapt and have some stronger maintenance practices, especially on fields that get a lot of the what we call the cell phone soccer leagues. Adults calling up their buddies and having a pickup game in the evening or Saturday morning. Cedar Lane is a big one, so we end up having to seed that one a lot every year, and it gets covered. So you'll see some of those type of things on these fields. And then we'll even have to, like every 3 years or so, we might have to do a little more extensive work. And what I mean by extensive work is, you come in at the end of fall, early winter, and we might have to sod the goal mouths, in between the hash marks, cover it, with a turf cover, and leave it that way until spring. So that's the type of maintenance activities that's going to be needed on fields like this.
Yeah, before I'll ask you one last technical question. I like the idea that you said, I as a former soccer coach, we never used the whole practice. We never used an entire field for practice. We only ever used like a quarter of the field. It was actually better for the players, but so I'd love to see that education. Like, you don't need this full field to get in a really good practice. But the other question I have for you is, so having played soccer at Centennial Park on the women's league up into my 30s, those fields were not level. So how level are these fields, these two fields going to be?
Yeah, we had to. So these type of fields, we don't necessarily, and each site is a little bit different, and sometimes it's not. We're just not able to get it to be, only crowned in the middle, no slope from end zone to end zone or goal to goal. These particular fields were pretty far out. You couldn't really tell visually, but Bob, correct me. I think they were like eight or
7 feet.
7 feet.
They're 7 feet from north to south, and
Correct.
we're going to reduce that to 4 feet
To
of fall.
So it's less than the design that I presented actually calls for some. I should have pointed out, but some small retaining walls to be able to facilitate that. So the retaining walls will be along the pathway. There'll be small, railings on top of the for safety. But we've really took care to kind of balance the desire to have a level field with not making massive retaining walls. So we got it within a 1%. So I think the planners did a pretty good job with it, and I think that'll be kind of really go unnoticed by most players, probably all players, honestly. That's also why you switch at halftime, right?
Do you want to go uphill or do you want to go downhill? Thank you, Nick.
Thank you.
Bill?
Hi, Nick. Thanks for the presentation. Might I say hi, boss, because I do before and after school care for Rackham Park. So you're
Right.
I think what's great is you listened, because the first set of plans met with lots of concerns from residents. The second set of plans, from what I understand, has been very well received. So you listened, and that's critical. Whenever possible, please focus on multi-generational use of the big areas. That was a critical finding in our survey for the play area reimagination. And then for the field maintenance, Karen hit on that. And I've witnessed over the 50 years I've been coaching girls soccer, Oak Mills Middle School, way back, that used to be like the photographs you showed tonight. For the last, 15 years or so, that grass has been excellent. I know there's a lot of usage there for practice. I know there are lacrosse tournament games there. I don't think that there are weekly soccer games there. There used to be clinic with SAC. I'm not sure that that's there now. So I'm not sure about the total usage, but those fields there at Oak Mills Middle School are great. I practice there all the time. So the Board of Ed did a wonderful job of salvaging that site, and that might be something you look into with them to see how they did it.
Okay, thank you.
Warren?
Hey, Nick, thanks for the presentation. So I only coached for 10 years, so I feel humbled by you, Bill. So I know people that play. I've seen rugby games there. I've seen local neighborhood pick up soccer games, and I think that's really good that you preserve that local feel in the fields. And I think you made a really good decision, and I'm really happy with the look of it. So thanks.
Thank you, Warren. So quick start tennis, I think, Bill, you probably can speak towards this a little bit, but it really declined and didn't gain much traction. And the other concern, so that was one amenity that we pulled out. But then fast forward, what have we been doing? We basically have been building quick start tennis courts. We just call them pickleball courts now. So even if we had have built quick start tennis courts here, they would have been commandeered by the pickleball community. So if we have tennis programmers, And we can actually do quick start programming on like the 8 Western regional pickleball courts that we just built out there. So we have a way. We're building 6 pickleball courts at Blandair Park this spring. So we really have. There'll be opportunities to grow that program should that start to take off again. Brigadier?
Yeah, I just want to say that as an Owen Brown resident, as Nick and the other gentlemen here know, I've been at a couple of the meetings, and I was very my house community backs right up into those fields, and I have utilized those fields for 20 years in a variety of ways. And I have to say publicly once again that I really appreciate and am very thrilled at the response and taking the community's feedback and really presenting something that incorporated everybody's comments. And so I just wanted to publicly acknowledge that it was. I ran into the board chair from Owen Brown at the grocery store the other day, and we had a whole conversation about it, and we were just both very thrilled. So thank you all again. And I'm very much looking forward to watching it come about. So thank you.
Thanks.
Anyone else before I go? Nick, I really want to reiterate the appreciation that you've already heard. I've actually have been in touch with the Owen Brown chair both before and after you went in and made the presentation. We exchanged some emails. We had a phone call and talked probably for about a half hour or so. Before you went into their meeting, and then after the meeting, he emailed me and almost immediately has said, wow, they came in and they listened and they changed things, and we're really happy with it now. We support it. So I said, oh, great. I'm looking forward to to the presentation and seeing what it looks like now, because I couldn't tune into their meetings. So again, thank you for listening to everyone's feedback and taking it into consideration and then acting on it.
Great, thank you. Appreciate that.
Okay. Any further questions or comments? All right. Well, thank you very much for joining us.
Thanks.
Thanks for the invite.
Thank you, Nick. Thank you, guys.
Good to see everybody again.
Take care.
Thank you.
Thank
Bye.
you.
Next up, we have Karen.
Yay. Yeah, so a couple weeks ago, I emailed you guys, and I saw that Brigida emailed it again today, so hopefully you guys have had a chance to read it. But I have come up with a policy proposal to change the way that the Columbia Association approves easements, leases, contracts for real property, for transactions for CA real property. So in that email that I sent you guys, I sent you the existing policy, and then I sent you my proposed policy. And I want to talk to you guys a little bit tonight about what why I proposed the policy, give you a little bit of an idea of what's in it. And then I was kind of hoping there'd be a little bit of collaboration, if you guys could talk to me if you've read it and ask questions, make suggestions, that kind of stuff, because it's not a perfect policy yet. And so probably needs a few amendments, but I think it's a solid start. So with that, when I ran for the board last year, I don't know if you guys remember this, but one of the things that really that I found troubling was that we had awarded the CA board of directors had approved easements, and they didn't even know what was going to actually happen to the land for which they were approving the easements. So obviously the biggest example of that is the Lake Elkhorn stream restoration. So the board awarded WSSI the easement that they needed was for 70 acres. The board approved twice as much. And they didn't understand at the time, there was not a real solid plan for what they were going to do. So where was the construction going to happen? How many trees were going to be removed? What was going to be the impact to residents? None of that stuff was known. The easement itself, the request for the easement was only ever analyzed by staff. And while staff have credentials, in this particular instance, they were on the opposite side of the science, and the residents, when they realized what was happening, there were several experts that live in that area, the Lake Elkhorn, where that stream restoration would have taken place, understood exactly what was about to happen and started to really push back. And so I, of course, have been educating myself for the past year on what the easement policies do. And Ginny touched on some of the other things that I found concerning. But we at CA tend to do things a little bit backwards. It's like we grant the easement and then we find out later what's actually going to happen. And what I'm saying in my policy is, okay, we need to know before all these things happen. I want to know, we want to see the maps, we want to see the plans. If you're going to pull a tree down, I want to know that you're going to pull a tree down. And I want to give residents an opportunity to understand what's going on and have a comment period. Now, sometimes, like in the case of a Lake Elkhorn, there was a permitting process with the Maryland Department of the Environment, the Army Corps of Engineers, and other entities like that. So there was a regulatory comment period for residents to speak. And in fact, because the residents were paying attention, they actually got that comment period extended. And I think that's one of the reasons why we were able to stop that stream restoration there. By the same token, residents should have had a say when we were negotiating the contract around the collective. So for the collective, one of my issues with that particular easement is when we were negotiating for that, there was never ever an appraisal of that transaction. So what I'm talking about an appraisal is you want to make sure that when you're negotiating, you're getting fair consideration. So one of the things that I built into this policy is that when we're entering into these land transactions, I'd like to see an independent appraisal of the value of that particular land transaction so that when we're negotiating, we're protecting the residents, right? And again, the same thing, there should be some sort of public comment period for the residents to be able to come forward and talk about it and ask questions and have their questions answered sufficiently that they feel comfortable with what the CA board is about to approve or not, depending on the comment period, right? So that's major things that I saw. Major things that I saw was we're not getting enough input from residents. We're kind of doing it backwards. And then the next thing is I think we're putting CA at risk. And by that, I mean the residents, the board of directors, and the Columbia Association themselves are all being put at risk because of the way that we do things now. Whereas if we get an independent expert to validate what it is we're trying to do, that would make more sense to say, okay, you say that there's going to be benefits to, we're a 501c4, right? You're trying to engage in things that are going to benefit social welfare, right? It's for the social welfare of the community. Well, are we actually going to realize those benefits? So for example, with the stream restoration, it was very unlikely that those benefits would have come to fruition, right? And if we'd had an independent expert look at that, we would never have engaged in that in the first place. And the same thing, Longfellow already endured a stream restoration, and I don't think that would have happened if this policy had been in place at the time. So staff, it would help staff because they're presenting an idea for something that they want to do, and an independent expert can help them validate what they want. Similar to if you're having surgery, you're going to get a second opinion. That's how I would think of this too. So with that being said, I'm hoping, have you guys had a chance to read the policy, and do you have questions or concerns and things that you'd like to talk about?
Sorry, I keep having trouble unmuting. Bill?
Yes, Karen, I had read the draft over originally a couple weeks ago, and I think emailed you the feedback that I think it was important, based on my reading, might be wrong, that it's important to have in there express language that all land transactions of any kind done by CA must be approved by the CA board by vote in a public meeting. Okay, because I don't think that was in there that explicitly. And I'm just trying to close the door on any end arounds. So that was my feedback after I had read the whole thing.
Yeah, Bill, I'll go back and look for your email and see what else was in there. Is there anything else you want to talk about here tonight that was in there?
No, I think that was the main thing. I thought everything else looked pretty good, was covered well. I'm sure you had legal help in putting that together, which was great. That's critical for protection for everybody. But the key thing that didn't hit me between the eyes was that express wording, all land transactions must be approved by a vote by the CA board in a public meeting. Okay, so that if there was any end around that was tried, that person would be doing something illegally within CA.
Okay.
But that was my comment. Thank you.
Other comments? Aaron, I just had one question about your language in the proposed policy. I know that, open space is obviously
Sure.
what's very important to everyone, what's on a lot of people's minds, in various situations that have come up. But really, this is any real property, right? Did you intend to sort of imply that it's restricted to open space?
No. So, any real property that CA is entering into a transaction for, I wanted to apply.
Okay. I mean, and maybe, as Bill said, you probably consulted with the lawyers. Maybe they're fine with it. It's just that on first read, basically the first sentence, recognizes the importance of open space versus addressing just real property in general. And I didn't know if that could eventually be, for lack of a better term, used against CA. When it ends up being something that is not open space.
Well, the main driver is the open space, right?
Yeah.
Right. So that, I mean, and clearly the biggest example I'm using as I'm explaining everything is the Lake Elkhorn stream restoration, right? Like
Right.
we really, I think people don't realize we really dodged a bullet there. Shar lives across the street from a stream restoration. And if she walks across the street, she will see in that stream, first of all, that stream was never, having lived in this neighborhood pretty much my entire life and walked along there all the time, that stream was never an issue, right? I don't know why the county thought they needed to go in there. And I think CA probably granted an easement for them to cross our property to get in there and do that stream restoration. If you walk in there and you walk along that stream, you will see iron flocculate in there. Now, another resident noticed iron flocculate down under OM Bridge 08, and I reached out to CA about that. That's not caused by that stream restoration. It's too far away. However, iron flocculate is that red stuff. It can look puffy and everything in the stream, right? That is a dead area in that stream. It's a dead zone. If wildlife are in there, aquatic wildlife are in there, they will die. There is some aquatic wildlife that can eat that stuff, but there's no nutritional value in it, so they tend to fill themselves up on it, and then they end up starving to death because they didn't get any nutrition out of it. So you've already got a creek over there now that has a dead zone in it. And Shar, hopefully you're comfortable with sharing this. We displaced a lot of wildlife. Shar had to get new siding on her house because a woodpecker decided her house would be a new location. So Shar, hopefully you're okay with me sharing that. But that's the kind of thing that they, like in Lake Elkhorn, where they ripped out all the trees. Now the tree, where they were going to rip out all the trees. Now the trees in that stream restoration over there, they're probably have a pretty good chance of survival because they're on higher ground. But over in Longfellow, those trees that they keep planting, they're planting them in very wet soil. Those trees are not going to survive. They're going to drown. But what it looks like across from Shar may look nice, but what they've basically built is a very fancy storm drain. And it'll take about 50 years for that area to recover. So if we had gotten a second opinion before we did Longfellow, before we even engaged WSSI for Lake Elkhorn, we would have never done any of this. None of this would have happened. So yeah, so the open space to me is a big deal because when we survey our residents, what do they say? Paths, play areas, and pools. Those are the top three things that they love. And so when I wrote this policy, open space was totally at the top of my mind. And that's the other thing is I haven't walked in with somebody who's a tree expert to tell me for that one that's next to Lightning View, like that was completely wooded. That was completely wooded over there. And when they've gone in and planted trees, the diversity of trees that they plant is usually lacking. they usually only replace it with like one type of tree. So we lose the diversity of the trees, the canopy that keeps things shaded. So that area is going to be super hot this summer, right? July will come along, that'll be super hot. And I'm kind of just telling you guys some of the repercussions of CA not knowing what's going to happen. When you grant these easements, this is the kind of thing that you want to prevent, right? You don't want to create these hot zones, especially when we're in a climate emergency. And I guarantee you there's going to be a lot of invasive species in there because stilt grass grows in my backyard. And so all the people along Lightning View and Melonbrook that back up to that stream restoration are going to find stilt grass in their yard now. It might not be this summer, but it'll definitely be the following summer because it's very sunny in there and that stuff just spreads like crazy. So that's one of the driving forces. So, but the area, the outside dining area at the collective, that's open space. The area for Symphony of Lights that Brad Canfield uses, that's open space. So even though, you know, it's not trees and greenery and things like that, that is open space. And we may lease it, we may have a contract, things like that. But I think what we want to do is we want to know for sure exactly, you know, first of all, when I negotiated the contract, did I get a fair deal? Did I represent the residents? And so, Jonathan, I kind of been going on here. Hopefully that kind of sort of answers your question.
Oh, no, I sorry, I let you go
Did you
on.
drift off? Did you drift off while I was
No,
talking? I'm sorry.
no. I know why you did it the way you did. I just want to make sure the legal beagles have taken a look,
Yeah.
and like CA can't get caught on a technicality, right? Because there are
Right.
going to be those occasions where maybe there is something that CA hasn't defined as open space, and someone will say, "Oh, it's not open space.
Right.
We can take that one by because this policy is really about this policy is really about real property that is also open space versus any real property."
Yeah,
That's the only
I
thing I was
really appreciate that. And yeah, one of the things I want to see happen is I do want staff at CA to vet the policy and see how we'll implement it. And obviously I want support. I'm coming to you guys because I really want the Oakland Mills Community Association. I want our village board to support it. I'm going to talk to other village boards as well. I talked to Hickory Ridge last night, and I'm hoping to get support because I think this is of high interest to the public. So, Bill, did you have further questions?
Just quickly to follow up with Jonathan, I think that would be important to determine if all CA owned land is defined as open space legally. I think that'd be critical. I have been told in the past by very knowledgeable people that if CA owns it, it is open space. But I think have your lawyers double check that so there's no loophole, like Jonathan said.
Yep, I made a note of that. So thank you guys. Brigida?
Yeah, and excuse my ignorance if this exists, but I was wondering, is there any sort of timeline, like a certain number, like when somebody wants to go about doing this? You know, like, because I know with the stream restoration project, that was a long discussion. And I know in projects in the past that it's gone on for a long time. And I don't know, you know, what the specifics were relating to that, and I don't even know if that's possible, but that's just something that crossed my mind when I was reading it.
So are you asking, I'm going to try to reframe it a little bit. Are you saying, so if you put in an application for an easement, like there's a certain amount of time it takes? I think it's really dependent on what the application is for, you know, how much time it will take. Because something like a Lake Elkhorn, right? I'm saying in my policy, I want you to get your permits. I want you to have public comment periods, all that kind of stuff before CA ever does anything. So it could, you know, those public comment periods can be open for a long time. I think 90 days, 60 to 90 days, something like that. This off the top of my head, trying to remember.
Okay. Thank you.
Anything else?
Oh, I'm looking at Brigida's question in the chat. Are you okay with me reading that, Brigida?
It was a question posed by one of the residents in attendance, so I put it in your
okay.
chat box.
Yeah, so the question is who's going to pay for the independent assessment? So what you would do, so this is what the Bureau of Land Management does, right? They actually have vendors on call. They contract with a vendor for what they're gonna need, and they'll say, oh, we have this contract for X. And we need an expert who can do this evaluation for us, who can do the analysis. And so they're on call and you don't pay for them until you actually need them. And the applicant would actually be responsible, the applicant for the easement, whoever we're gonna grant the easement to, they would actually be responsible for the costs of getting the application approved and all that kind of stuff. But CA would have somebody on call that we could call on, and use them, but the applicant would pay for that.
Aaron, just a side
Now-
note. I recommend going and walking in that new stream restoration. It's actually quite beautiful. And they
It
have
does look
so many
beautiful.
different kinds of trees. I'm not a tree expert, but I can tell looking one to one that there's dozens of different kinds. It's beautiful.
Well, that's good to know that they do have a variety of species, because if you go over to Longfellow, I think they only planted sycamores. They didn't plant what they had taken down. It does look beautiful. It does not look like, if you're just looking at it as a layperson, I think you would think, oh yeah, that's fantastic. But as I say to people all the time, I'm the most boring person, at the cocktail party, because I won't talk about stream restorations. And yeah, if you look at that stream, I was talking about where the iron flocculent is, that's super concerning that is there.
Aaron, pardon me if I missed this, but in follow-up to that question about who pays for the appraisal, I'm sitting here now toggling back and forth between the two, the old policy and the proposed policy. Just looking for that question. The old policy actually explicitly stated that the other party would pay for the appraisal as part of the transaction. I don't think the new one does. It does.
Hopefully
in
it
there?
says in the requirements section, it should say at the cost of the applicant.
Okay, maybe I'm
Hopefully,
just,
if it doesn't, I mean, I
It-
did add that in there, I think before I sent you guys, hopefully that's in there, but if not,
maybe I'm just missing it as I toggle in real time. I didn't see
You-
it, but I'm also trying to, do three things at once. So,
if you look at the section that's called requirements, at the cost,
Okay.
it says at the cost of the applicant.
okay, all right, very good.
I hope so. If not, I'll make sure I had that, but I thought I had added that in there.
All right. Any other questions for Karen?
Thank you guys very much for the time tonight. There'll probably be, Jonathan, just to let you know, so policy updates require like 3 readings, so it'll be on the agenda. We did ask at the last CA board meeting that the staff begin to review it, so hopefully work with Eric and Dennis to make sure that the policy itself is in the packet when we start to discuss this and actually consider the changes.
Okay, and just don't forget to bring it back to our agenda as old business if you want us to, take the vote and
Okay, thank you
to
very
go on
much,
the
guys. I
regular
really
schedule.
appreciate that.
Sure. Thank you. All right. I still don't see anyone from Shadow Oak, so we're moving on. They've Brigida, if they turn up now, no. We're out of new business. So board chair report. Actually, a lot has happened in the past, what is it, 4 weeks since we met? I don't know how long it's been. So let me start with the Village Center. As you all know, El Gran Sabor opened. They actually surprised even Klein. Klein didn't realize they opened until Brigida told them. I actually had dinner there the first Saturday night they were open. I took the family. It was really good. They were busy. They had steady business all day and the whole time we were in there. And the food's pretty good, so I recommend going over there and giving it a try if you haven't already. I'd also ask Brigida to reach out to the property manager to figure out what is the status of the Second Chance building, and they say they are marketing it. They didn't say they're not going to take it down, but basically what they said was they're marketing it, and if someone wants it, great. If it goes on too long and someone doesn't want it, then maybe they'll look at it again and decide what they want to do with it next. So to me, that kind of means it's still in limbo because, it sounds like they've had some people kick the tires, but nothing has gone, to the point yet where they can say, yeah, we've got one. We'll let you know as soon as we can share the information with you. So the other big news around here was last Monday, Oakland Mills High School kind of flooded and had to close for the day, and all hell broke loose as a result of that. So I guess the good news is I don't know how they cleaned this up that fast, because I saw the videos and I didn't think that place was going to open the next day, but they did open up the next day, minus a couple of classrooms. And apparently there's an inventory of equipment that has to be replaced, and there are some walls that have to be repaired and ceiling tiles that will have to be replaced. It was apparently treated to do what we can to avoid additional mold outbreaks. I was actually in the media center last night. This is not the wing of the school that had the flood, and I have no idea how they're going to prevent additional mold outbreaks, because it felt like a swamp in there in the middle of winter. But anyway, so that actually led to residents just contacting the press, and I got messages. I think I sent an email to this effect. I got messages from a couple of people, including a former Board of Education member, saying, "I hope you don't mind, but I gave this reporter your name and contact information." So I did get a couple of calls. So there was an article that ran in the Baltimore Banner last week. And then actually there was just an article posted to the Howard County Times a few hours ago. Because a Baltimore Sun reporter called me Friday. And they do, briefly quote an official from the school system kind of saying, we cleaned it up, everything's fine. But then there's a whole lot of quotes just from, not only me, but other parents and residents in Oakland Mills saying, this has gone far enough. This is crazy. Obviously, we also sent the letter to everyone, the Board of Education, the county officials, the state delegation. We've gotten various responses back. I know our Team 13 agrees with our position, and they've actually been pushing on the acting superintendent and the Board of Education. They themselves sent something over. And from talking to one of the delegates this morning, I know that they were not completely thrilled with the response to what they sent over, because the response was basically just addressing that one leak and saying everything is fine, and not addressing everything else, including, so are you finally going to, renovate this mess? So there's a lot of activity, and it's just, it's getting coverage outside of the Oakland Mills community now, because it's hitting the Baltimore newspapers. I guess you don't want to see the community cast in that light, but it probably had to be done, because we just need to get as many more people as we can listening and acting on this. I don't know if you all had the chance to read that proposed local legislation I sent around this morning. Delegate Terrasa had contacted me about that about a week and a half ago. And I don't know, I missed it. I don't know if it was on my radar, but she contacted me because she was concerned, because as originally written, when it was a HOCO local bill, it basically said that the Board of Education would have to basically publish like their justification and rationale anytime they changed what the superintendent was proposing in the capital improvement plan. So Delegate Terrasa called me and said, given what's happened over the past couple of years, this bill feels kind of anti-Oakland Mills, because it came from another Howard County delegation that happens to have like Centennial in its district. And I said, that doesn't make a lot of sense. I said, the superintendent is appointed, and we're saying that now the democratically elected Board of Education has to justify why they decided to do something else other than what the person they employ recommended they do. And she said, yeah. I said, well, let me talk to a few people about that, but that doesn't make a lot of sense to me. I said, if anything, it seems that if we're going to require something like that, everyone should have to do that. Like, why doesn't the superintendent have to say why he or she changed what the Board of Education did last year, because that's what's happened with us the past few years. The Board of Education goes one way, the superintendent comes back and does it another way. And the feasibility study doesn't really explain the rationale for the changes. It just puts a bunch of data out there for each school, and they kind of manipulate the data according to whatever they want the data to show. You know, you can manipulate the data to show that Oakland Mills can relieve, you know, Howard, Long Reach, and any other number of schools, or you can manipulate the data to show that it can't relieve anyone, depending on how big or small you draw the lines. So she said, good point. So the version, and I'm sorry, the version of the bill I sent you now, which is now sitting in Delegate Atterbury's committee, does have that friendly amendment that basically makes both sides kind of justify what they're doing. And I actually, you know, talked to a couple of people about this, and my thoughts on it now are, why even buy? Like, what is this bill really trying to achieve? Because it really still puts the Board of Education, the democratically elected institution, in the more difficult position. The superintendent is one person, so the superintendent can say whatever, you know, his or her rationale is, and that's it. The Board of Education is 7 people all voting the way they do for whatever reasons. So while as a body they might make a decision and adopt a plan, there's going to be 7 different rationales for doing that, or there might be 4 rationales for adopting the plan and 3 who opposed it. And how are you going to report that and you know, share that with the General Assembly? So the more I look at this thing, you know, even as amended, I just think it's pretty useless. And if anyone really wants to know why, you know, each side in this debate is doing what they're doing, it all happens in open meetings. Just go to the meeting or download the recording of the meeting. You can hear the superintendent and his staff explaining what they put in the feasibility study and why they recommended what they did. And then you can hear each member of the board who cares to weigh in saying what they say before they vote. So my thought is they should just kill this thing, because it doesn't really accomplish anything. It creates this appearance maybe of transparency and oversight, but I don't really think it changes anything. I think it just creates, I think it really creates kind of a chilling effect on the Board of Education being able to do anything with the superintendent's proposal, because you can't, as the Board of Education, state your rationale for a decision that was made by seven different people in real time. So that was my thoughts on it. I didn't put it as new business or anything, because all this was sort of, you know, developing, and I just got a hold of the new version literally this morning, because I didn't even know whether it was going to survive, or whether there was going to be a friendly amendment. So I looked at it this morning, you know, talked to a couple of people pretty quickly during breaks at work, and, you know, kind of put my thoughts together, sent it out to all of you, said, can you take a look? I have my thoughts on that. And those are my thoughts on it. And I don't know if anyone else has even had a chance to look at it. Bill?
I did quickly, Jonathan, and my opinion is it tries to go after the capital improvement program, which I've called the chaos improvement program, to deal with that issue. But you're right, it puts the elected board in a tougher position, and it still depends on the superintendent getting along with the board and coming to, hopefully, a rational agreement. The issue is the process and the priority list basically need to become much more stable than they have in the past. Now, I don't know that you can fix that with legislation, okay? But there is a problem with the way things have been going. This bill recognizes that, but I'm not sure it solves it. That's my take on it.
Yeah, I agree. And I've actually, you know, I talked to at least one member of the Board of Education about this, and, you know, we had very similar feelings. It's not that there aren't things that need to be fixed. This just doesn't seem to fix any of those things. It just seems to create this extra kind of administrative reporting burden, and it's it's going to be much easier for a superintendent to meet the letter of this law than it's going to be for a board of 7 people to meet the letter of this law. And again, one of the issues we've had when it comes to the superintendent and his staff, I'll say his because I'm talking about the former one, is, you know, they create what looks on the surface to be these you know, feasibility studies and these decisions based on, you know, numbers and rational arguments. But then when you dig down and do the math, it starts not making sense. You know, like why when you take the inflation on the Oakland Mills Middle project and the Dunlogan project, and then you do the fraction, why is the inflation rate in Oakland Mills higher than it is a few miles away? You know, things like that. Or, you know, when you just rank all the schools by deferred maintenance, well, guess what? A bigger building is gonna have higher costs. It has more HVAC units, it has more plumbing, it has more everything. But there's no right. They don't convert that into a rate, right? You know, what's the deferred what's the deferred maintenance of Oakland Mills High School as a proportion of, I don't know, the value of the building, for lack of anything else, relative to, you know, another building, a larger building that might have a higher number, but maybe not a higher proportion. So it just seems there's so many different ways of manipulating the data to meet the spirit of this report. And the person who has all the data, or the people who have all the data, are the superintendent and his or her staff. The Board of Education is entirely dependent on them for this information. So basically, if they're in a disagreement, the Board of Education would be relying on the person they're overriding to provide the data they need to make the argument that, you know, their decision is based in some, you know, rational assessment of the situation.
And Jonathan, if I could say, I agree with both you and Bill. I think the intent maybe was a transparency. Maybe it was a good intent, but I feel like it will just bury things further down into probably more of a bureaucracy, and the public who actually wants the information isn't actually going to get the information that they desire. That's the way I took it. But when I read it over, and it didn't sound like it would accomplish exactly what they were looking to accomplish. Yeah. And that would be for more transparency and why things are the way that they are.
Yeah. Any other thoughts? So, you know, where we stand now is, you know, I was introducing this. It's not even new business because I'm kind of, you know, seeing this new version the first time, just you know, an hour or two before I shared it with all of you. So I don't even know what I told Delegate Terrassa was, well, you know, the agenda is already set for the village board meeting. We have a lot going on. I'm going to mention it during my remarks. I'm going to send it around, you know, give my thoughts on it. I said, you know, let me get back to you with what just my personal reaction is after talking to a few people. And then if like you feel you need the support of the Oakland Mills Village Board, if we're all in agreement on what we think of this legislation, you know, we can bring it back and do something with that. And you know, that's where she said, okay, thanks, you know, just, you know, get with this week. So I think that's what I'll do for now. This is like I said, this is in a committee that's chaired by someone who's friendly to our cause. So, you know, it may not go much further than that anyway. And I think that's all I have when it comes to board chair report, unless anyone has any questions for me. Well, we are right on time then, because it's 8:20 and we are on to the Columbia Council report.
Yeah, so thanks you guys. So first off, one of my updates obviously would be about the policy proposal that we've already talked about, so I'll skip that. The next thing I want to talk about is their strategic plan. I don't know if you guys got a chance to read my newsletter, but the board finally had an opportunity to look at the strategic plan and give our input. It was a really good discussion. I thought it was really collaborative. One of the things I didn't see in the strategic plan was innovation, resiliency, those types of things. A lot of it to me seemed like we were just gonna rehash what we had in the existing strategic plan. So, but I think the board did a really good job of asking for very specific things in the strategic plan. Some of that was making programs and facilities more affordable and accessible. Making sure, one of the things that I really pushed for is it's not just called DEI anymore, it's called DEIB. And the B stands for belonging. And I really like that, you feel you're belonging. So it was a separate section in the strategic plan, and the board asked that that it be included in all of the focus areas, so that it's always it's not just a box that you check, but we think about it in all our decision making. So I'm really pleased with that. So the consultants were gonna go back and see how they could put that into the entire strategic plan. So I thought that was really, really good. And so I'm looking forward to see what they bring back. But again, I am looking for things around innovation because, we're coming out of a pandemic. We are in a climate emergency, and how do we continue to deliver services as the Columbia Association in a world that, can be pushed off its axis quite a bit. So we'll see what we get when they bring that back. The next thing is that the board is going to be approving the budget. And so I don't know how many of you guys know this, but we've been doing budget wise, we're pretty good. And so I had asked a couple months ago, I don't know if you guys recall this, but last year when we first started the whole budget process, I had asked that we try to make the summer pools, the outdoor pools, free in the month of July. And I was really disappointed. I was only one of 3 board members that voted to just even do the analysis on what it would take to make the pools free. But I also, that didn't happen. I'm going to continue to push for it. But the other thing I did ask for is I wanted them to reduce the annual charge. Because CA, when I look at the budget, CA looks really, really healthy. And from everything Susan Krabby tells us, we're very stable. She doesn't have any concerns. She'll talk about, there's different environmental issues that we need to keep an eye on. The minimum wage got increased, that kind of stuff. But I feel like the budget is stable. So I had also asked that we decrease the annual charge, and that got voted down. So I was disappointed by that because I feel like only 25% of the residents in Columbia are actually using or pay for a membership, right? Only 25% pay for a membership in any of our programs and facilities. And I would really like to see that increase. And one of the things we could do, or rather, I'd like to see that increase. And one of the things I thought we could do is if we made the pools free in July, that would decrease memberships across, because all the memberships include pools. So that would make it a little bit more affordable for all the residents. And it would be a nice thing to do since July is the hottest month on record. I don't see in the budget that we're trying to make Columbia more affordable and accessible. I do see that the membership rates, especially on that very, the one that's just the summer pools with, I think, the ice rink and the skate arena, and there's a few other things that are in there. That went up another 3%, and it's really expensive just to buy a new membership. It's cheaper to buy a renewing membership if you're already a member, but I'd like to see those costs come down. And what I'm not seeing in the budget is us really controlling costs and trying to make things more affordable. And I'm not sure that I see a good effort to do that across the board. So it's one of the things I'm going to continue to push for. And so I'm not feeling confident that I will vote for this budget, but we shall see. And then the last thing is the search for a new president. So we are going to start vetting candidates very, very soon. We are on track to hire a new president, have them in place by May 1st. And there will be some sort of, when we get down to just a few finalists, we do want to have some sort of a community forum where residents can give their input and talk to the candidates, which I think will be huge for everybody. So those are kind of the 3 things that are top of mind right now. I don't know if anybody has any questions about what I just shared. Warren? Warren, you're muted.
Sorry about that. Yeah, Karen, I did read about your free pools, and I just love that idea. I think that's um, really exciting, and I support it wholeheartedly. So thank you for that idea, and I hope you continue to support that. And I think our
I
community,
will.
could use that.
Yeah.
Let me just tell you one story. As a soccer coach, I had a party at our Thunderhill pool, and one of our kids, he jumped in the pool, and he was from a different neighborhood, and he just sunk to the bottom because he didn't know how to swim, and he'd never been to the pool before, and that's just sticks in my mind whenever I think about it, because he didn't have that opportunity to go to the pools except that day. So I think it would be, a life experience for people, a real chance for people to learn how to swim and be in water, which, I spent my life in water, and it was just, I cherish it. So I
Thank you.
support it all the way. Thank you.
Thank you. I mean, yeah, I lived at the Thunderhill pool growing up. That was my home base. As soon as it opened, I was on the summer swim team, and it hurts my heart knowing that so many kids aren't on the swim team. That Bill Santos said that 60% of the kids on the Columbia Neighborhood Swim League are not residents. They're from outside of Columbia, and I thought, what is going on that our kids don't get to even be on swim team? Like, I would really like to see those numbers increased, and I think some
Mhm.
of it is when I was talking about the innovation and the resiliency, it's like, how do we deliver these services? How do we get these people to really to make it so that they can enjoy the services? Like, if everybody's working during the day, maybe we shouldn't open the pool at noon. Maybe we could open the pool a little bit later and keep it open later so people who work all day can have more access to the pool. So in the innovative ideas, that's what I would like to see, things like that come out of the Columbia Association to really kind of meet our residents where they are. Okay, thanks, Jonathan.
What? You hear me?
Yeah,
So
I don't know
Karen,
if my internet connection is that great. Yeah.
so on the strategic plan and really even the budget, since theoretically your budget and your strategic plan should be connected, right? I
Absolutely.
have to say, I attended one of the sessions that I guess the consultants facilitate the
Oh, for the
strategic.
strategic plan?
Yeah. Um, Unfortunately, I have to say I was not very impressed. I mean, I hope you're getting better from them
Okay.
than what happened in those sessions. We we wasted a lot of time because people were bringing up issues that just weren't under CA's purview. We
Okay.
literally talked for probably about 15 minutes about the Columbia Flyer, the loss of the Columbia Flyer, which has nothing to do with CA. And then the conversation devolved into, well, if they bring back the Columbia Flyer, someone needs to enforce covenants so they're not just left behind in gutters and dry. I mean, this is what was going on, in those conversations. And I don't know if the facilitators were under orders to just let everyone talk or just don't know enough about CA to say, hey, you're out of scope. But I I I felt like one other a member from another village board and I felt like I was kind of being the bad guy at times because I would like raise my hand to speak up and say, um, basically that's not CA. Like if you have a problem with that, go to Howard County or call the Baltimore Sun Media Group or whatever. It just I don't know what getting and to your points about open space and making the pools free, which I agree about. Um, Directors had one question that actually about started by asking about open space and how residents of Columbia value that and what can be done to improve it even further. And then somehow that question morphed into, so it's still within the context of open space. So what does CA have to do to remain competitive with other fitness companies like Planet Fitness and they named a few others. And I said, well, wait a minute. I thought we're talking about open space here. I said, is CA's vision to be a basically a for-profit fitness company like these others, or is their vision to continue to be a not-for-profit company that's primarily, providing services to his residents, but also happens to run a couple of gyms. And it direction of the conversation, but that whole, I don't know if all of you did one of those sessions, maybe it was just mine. That whole session was always like, running tangentially to where I thought it should be running, including just going off the rails at times. Like, why have we just spent 15 to 20 minutes talking about the Columbia Flyer? That has nothing to do with CA. It was not productive, and I don't know what they're going to take from that and then bring to you when it comes to putting together the strategic plan.
I think I don't remember what was in the packet. It wasn't this past week. It might have been the week before that we talked about the strategic plan. So what they gave us might be in there, Jonathan. I'll go look for it and see if I can show you. But we really, if you want to watch I think the discussion that we had as board members was actually really, really good as far as what we wanted to see in there. But I agree with you. I think, we really need a good vision, because I'm expecting that when we hire the new president, that strategic plan, that's their goals. Now, a new president could come in and say, I want to change the strategic plan, and present me something that you want to do. What is your vision as the new president of CA? I want to see someone who really has some ideas about how we, not just for the next 5 years, but like, okay, this 5-year plan is starting us on a path to what? Like I was talking about with the pools, is how do we deliver our services? And you're absolutely right when it comes to the gyms. We're a not-for-profit, we're a 501c4, and you are not allowed to run a business for profit. If your primary purpose is running those gyms and you're running those exactly like a business that runs that for profit, you could end up getting taxed on. So. Yeah, I would love to have input from you guys on this strategic plan. I'll go through the packet and look for it and send you guys the link so you can look at it. I would really like your input because we're going to have another shot at it. So I would love to hear your ideas and what you guys would like to see in there.
That's great, because like I said, I felt like that session I was in, we spoke on so little that was actually directly relevant to CA that I don't really feel like I gave much input. I felt like I was correcting the record more often than giving input. Brigida?
Yeah, I went to one of those sessions too, separately from Jonathan, and I would agree with him as well. And I went at it from the perspective of the well, my thought was to go in it as the village's relationship to CA and how we've kind of worked together, etc. And I did a lot more of kind of giving a lot of background information, and I didn't feel it was very productive either, quite honestly. So just a little feedback from me as well.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Okay, anything else for Karen? All right, on to Brigida.
Okay.
Thank you, Karen.
So I sent a report with all of my updates. It was quite a lot, so I'm obviously not going to go through it all. One thing I did want to, as I was looking at it right before getting ready to read it, I noticed that I had listed that applications for if anybody wants to run for the village board or CA rep are due on March 1st by 5 p.m. It's actually by 4 p.m. That's what's on the calendar. That's what's listed everywhere. So make sure that it is by 4 p.m. That the applications are due. And just a reminder that everybody who is currently on the board, if you would like to be on the board again, you do have to submit an application to be a candidate. You do have to run again. It's a year-long commitment, and then if you want to be on it again, you have to put in another application. I did meet with the election monitor committee yesterday, and I felt it was a very productive meeting. And so we are well on our way, and it seems like a really great involved committee that is I'm really look forward to working with. As far as the facilities, I will tell you, I got information back from John from CA, who's been the person who oversees the installation of the bathroom and putting in at the back door. They are ahead of schedule. So it looks like if all goes according to how they wanted to, it should all be completed within 2 to 3 weeks. So that is very exciting. Ashley and I have scheduled a full cleaning with Judd because it is pretty dusty in there. And we will kind of go through and make sure everything is ready for our first rentals in April. As you saw, the proposed AC revised guidelines have gone out for public comment. And on February 27th, part of the board meeting will be used to have a public hearing for the public to give feedback on those proposed guidelines. And I think those are the big things I wanted to make sure everybody knew about, unless somebody has any questions.
I was just going to say, I don't care how dirty the other barn is. I don't care what's floating around in the air. 2 weeks from now, I just hope we can have a meeting in there. If I survived a meeting in the Oakland Mills High School Media Center yesterday, nothing in the other barn is going to hurt me.
Well, I'm planning on it because I don't think we can have a public comment hearing. I mean, we could, but it would not be desirable to have it virtually. So I would much prefer to have it. And one thing I just want to let you know, just for clarification's sake too, is we won't know whether or not we're having an election until we get all the applications in. Because obviously if we have just enough to fill the village board and then only one CA rep candidate, then we will not have the election. However, I want to make sure that everybody understands and knows that we will still have our Earth Day event regardless. Amy is working on putting all of that together, and it will be held no matter what from 11 to 2, of course, unless it's pouring down rain outside and we do have an election, and then we won't have anywhere to hold it. So weather all going well, we will have that event. So just know it will go on regardless of whether or not there is a contested election.
Thank you. Okay, we do have a quick architecture committee item of business. We have someone who is interested in serving on the RAC. His name is Miguel Antoine. I thought I had, I can't find it. I thought I had more information about him, but Brigitte,
I'm not a he, I'm a she.
Oh, I'm sorry. You're here.
Yes, I've been here listening the whole time. And
Hi,
some of
okay.
my comments have been, pertaining to the meeting that you all have had. But no, I just want to let you know I'm not a he, I'm a she.
Oh, I apologize. Okay. Oh, I read it as Miguel. It's a Q, Miguel.
Yes,
Am I pronouncing it correctly?
Yep.
Okay, so Brigitte, obviously Miguel has been through all of the attending RAC meetings, meeting with the members of the RAC.
Hi, everybody.
Getting into. Does anyone have any questions for Miguel?
My question is, will you approve my patio?
If you have all the requests, the information into the application, then yes.
She's got the right answer.
There you go.
Okay, is there a motion to appoint Miguel Antoine to the RAC? Motion from Bill, a second from Rebecca. Any discussion? They're already voting for you. All in favor?
I'm voting for myself.
5-0-0. Congratulations and thank you.
No, thank you, and thank Mike. He's the one who really got me involved and into this. So no, I really appreciate it. I'm a lifelong resident of Columbia. I grew up in Long Beach and I recently moved to Oakland Mills, and I appreciate all the work that you all are doing. And so anything that I can do to help support that, I'm here to help with that.
We're glad you're here.
Thank you very much. We're glad you're joining us.
Thanks.
Okay, so we do have a closed session. Actually, we're only doing that for one property instead of the two we originally thought we were doing, but we still need to do it for one. So we will do the board bulletin board now so that anyone who is not part of the closed session and chooses not to hang around during it can just go and hear everything we were going to do in open session. We will actually come back to open session very briefly, regardless of whether we have an audience, because we have to do that to announce the outcome of the closed session. But let's go to the board bulletin board now, and I'm just going to do the Hollywood squares and start over here with Amy. Anything, Amy?
I'm almost always first. I don't think I have anything, no.
Okay. Karen?
Nope, I'm good.
All right. Rebecca?
No, well, here you can see baby for a
There we
minute.
go.
And I have a question of, when do we do our budget? Because Yards Alive was wondering when they can start planning if we're going to do cul-de-sac money, or if they need to ask for that, or, well, I can ask for that, but, when do we do that? Soon, right?
So, I can answer that. The budget will be, I will start well, I've already started working on it, but hopefully I will have something towards the end of March. And then we look at it typically as new business, the first meeting in April, and old business, the second meeting in April, unless I'm really ahead of the game, which I could be. But I will tell you that if they send in a request for reimbursements, what I do, I put it in the file for the upcoming year, and then they are already, like, I'll reach out to them to once, if it's approved to be in the budget, I'll reach out to them to see if they're still interested. So they can go ahead and send me an email now if they want. That's perfectly fine.
All right. Warren? Oh, unmute Warren.
Do it again. I have news. My son and Jennifer, his wife, are expecting. So they're due in August. So that's exciting.
Congratulations.
Congratulations.
Warren, you'll have to bring your baby to the meeting too.
Yes. Shar?
I just wanted to share at Howard Community College on March 4th, we will have the Silas Craft Collegians dinner, which is celebrating the Silas Craft Collegians program at Howard Community College. It's a cohort, and that program at the college, it's and representative of Dr. Silas E. Craft Sr. And so we're going to have that. We're selling tickets. They're $45. We do have several students that live right here in our neighborhood that are a part of that program. So I hope that everyone can, either go to the website on Howard Community College under Silas Craft Collegians Dinner. If you're interested, to click on the link to purchase a ticket, support our students, and show up. And, this is a community event, and I hope the greater community, especially the Reach Out here in Oakland Mills, can join into that. So that's it.
I just have a quick question, and are you asking us to also help sponsor students to participate? So we should get.
You can sponsor if you'd like. I mean, of course, we love sponsorships, but we also are selling tickets, and the tickets are $45. It includes a bento box from Hunan Manor Restaurant. So the event is a virtual event, but we do have curbside pickup on the 4th from 12 to 2, again from 4 to 6. You would go in, pick up your food trays, and then at 6:30 we have the virtual program. So once you purchase the ticket, you'll receive like an email with all of the information on how to connect to the program and directions to pick up the food.
Okay. No, yeah, we'll try and support and try to get some students to help support them too.
Awesome.
All right. Thank you, Shar. Bill?
No.
All right. I got nothing. Brigida?
Nope.
Okay. Well, that pretty much concludes all of our open meeting business. We do need to go into a closed section pursuant to the Maryland Homeowners Association Act. We're meeting in closed session, or will meet in closed session, for consultation with staff personnel, consultants, attorneys, or other persons in connection with pending or potential litigation. Is there a motion to go to closed session? Motion from Bill. Hang on, this is where I need to write stuff down in the form. Okay, so I have a motion from Bill. I think I saw a second from Warren. All in favor? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 0, 0. That vote was taken at 8:46 p.m.